I bet they are using AI. They just don't know it.
Unquestionably. It's funny. I think ChatGPT has kind of become the retail offer for AI, hasn't it? But
it's the Currys of the AI world.
Honestly, once you sit down with people, I don't think they fully appreciate just how much they've already had at their disposal without realizing it, particularly with smartphone handsets. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Construction Disrupted. Episode 88. I'm reliably informed of the whole thing. Episode 4. Well, I guess episode 6 technically with me involved, but 4 in its current guise, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a bit of a roller coaster week, this one, in terms of the story selected, Mr. Sumpton.
Well, I think it's been a roller coaster week for the stories and both of us as well, by the sounds of our green room conversations, if we can call it that. But let's stick to the 3 headlines and keep it snappy, like we've told people. And we decided this week we were going to do, let's call it good, better, best. I think is the right theme for this. So yeah, so I'll introduce the first story, and this is all about house building. You know, we like to talk about house building being the barometer, and this one's particularly in London, and this emergency planning package to try and boost the building of houses in London, and the different types of stipulations that they're changing and moving around to try and get this flowing a bit more. So Ryan, fill us in a bit more detail about what is actually going on here.
You'll be surprised, but being the facetious sort that I am, I picked this one for my construction roundup post last week. More the irony of, you know, the sort of delay to a policy that was around removing delays, I thought was quite the thing. But the more you get into this story, the more depth there is to it. So the Mayor's office in London are working with government to try, let's be positive, try and get things moving, try to get more housing developed in the capital. And again, you can't be naive to this thing. The way that the model works, obviously, there's a degree of land speculation. Land, it's a certain value. Property built on it has to be of a certain value, and therefore that money needs to be recouped from somewhere. And in fairness to Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, the capital's had some pretty strict guidance when it comes to affordable housing and the percentage of required in order to get things off the ground. There's some consultation. I think it's being driven largely by the Mayor's office with central government and with other partners to see if that can be lowered a little bit, if the threshold for the number of affordable housing units in percentage terms can start to be brought down in order to make sites more viable and therefore get building moving. Understand the logic of doing so. I think one of the things that I'd learned on my travels was the definition of affordable housing, and then actually started to have a look at what that means in practical terms. So I don't know if you've come across this, but under former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the role of affordable housing, or the definition for it, was amended to be 80. The rental value was 80% of the market value for that property. So that's an important thing to bear in mind, because in London, some of the most expensive rental real estate in the country. So I had a look. Obviously, we'd spoken about Steve Reed, housing minister, and his background previously in Lambeth Council and some of the work that had been done there on the regeneration of Battersea Power Station and other bits. So I had a look at Lambeth, and according to ONS data, the average house price in Lambeth last year, the rent, pardon me, was $2,435 per month. So 80% of that just gets you a sneak under $2,000 a month. So definitions of affordable, I appreciate, you know, London salaries and London waiting and all that sort of stuff. And again, I don't understand like we're kicking developers. These things have to have some financial viability to them. But good grief, it's a high wire balancing act to see how you can make that work and actually create communities that are viable, not just. And I wonder, I mean, I'd be interested in your opinion, Mr. Peter, but we've spoken a lot about this national 1.5 million homes target, and then, you know, once you think about what that may mean to different cities, are we too focused on chasing numbers rather than thinking about the building of communities and what's actually required to be delivered by way of provision? Where are we going wrong with this?
Yeah, I mean, reading it, I think 20%, wasn't it? They want to reduce it from 35 to 50 to 20%, which is a bit of a cut. And what you
So
pitched there
just
is
to add on that,
yeah,
it's 35% for private developments. So private house builders need to hit 35. It's actually 50% for anything that's got public money in there. So I can see where
right.
they're coming from, but again, it's what's the purpose that we're actually driving to here?
And yeah, it's that word, that P word, that purpose word, isn't it? That you're trying to build communities which should be accessible to most people, yet you're taking away the thing that makes it accessible to most people. Yeah, you can say the 80%, and is that enough of a cut to call it affordable? But if you remove the actual pricing and average costs of renting, then what they're sort of saying is, well, we'll build the houses, and if people can afford it, at least they're built. But
Hmm.
I just think it's quite ill thought out in a way, in that, like you said, I think the right answer is it's a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
making it affordable for everybody, yet getting the damn things built and making sure that there's a return, and that the organizations, companies, that house builders aren't making a loss, because if they're making a loss, then that is no good for anybody at all. Going back to how we started this conversation in terms of being a barometer for the rest of the economy. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, but you can't get away from it. The models are what they are. We may
yeah,
bemoan, the supply chain and how it's formulated and what that means, but we are where we are, and that need for housing is so acute. I noticed that was one of the
mhm,
comments within the piece that was again, we're referencing an article from Building that work, and we'll share a link to at the end of this. But the Mayor of London spokesperson saying the disastrous inheritance from the previous government has left national house building on its knees. Sidebar. Yeah, you can't really get away from that. The mayor is doing everything in his power to deliver more homes of all tenures, taking hard decisions, including actively exploring development on the Greenbelt. While the impact of this legacy is being felt acutely in London due to rising construction costs, wider economic pressures, and delays from the building safety regulator, the mayor is determined to work hand in hand with the government to support their ambition to get Britain building again. I get it.
mhm.
I'm not certain. I'm not certain that this is the answer. I fear that in again, you and I have a vested interest. We work in the sector. We work with brands that work in the sector. So of course we want to see activity. We want to see things moving. But yeah, this feels like a bit of a slippery slope. And I wonder if this precedent set here, does that then get exploited by others elsewhere? Where again, maybe London needs to be looked at on its own merit, and maybe there is a
Yeah,
possibility there for some localized policy that then means that can't be replicated. Um, I'd be concerned of the acute needs of the capital being met in this way, and then others
mhm.
where land isn't quite as expensive and real estate isn't quite as expensive to develop and resell. That there's the potential here for some exploitation. Be interested to see
But
how
I
this
mean,
plays out.
playing out is the correct phrase, isn't it? Because if you build the houses, and you don't have the affordable housing part in there, and then they're too expensive for anyone, then what's the logical thing to do is reduce the price.
Yeah.
So it's you're back to where you were, and maybe it is to get the damn things built, and then we'll worry about that bit later. Uh, and keep moving. But who knows? Yeah, I'm sure we'll revisit this at some point in the future.
Well, I'm certainly well. I mean, I don't know how you're finding things at the minute, but I'm seeing the spectre of the upcoming budget starting to loom large. You get undertones of it with this. Part of the reason for the delay, and part of the pressure to get this done is to have this agreed in line with the OBR forecast, to then have this included within whatever announcements are made as policy at the time of budget. I'm seeing that B word used an awful lot within sort of commentary within market at the minute. But yeah, I don't know whether that's people buying a bit of time and not having to make decisions and using the budget as a reason to sort of kick things down the road a little bit. But it's already there. I think it's something that you and I will probably talk about several times in the lead up. We're just over a calendar month away now to that budget. So let's see what happens. As I say, it's London, I think, is going to be the test case for this happening elsewhere. Part of me, me, I'm glass half full when it comes to these things. I want to see more development. I want to see the sector move. That the amount of pent up demand that's in the system has to be realised at some point. But yeah, I am. I must admit, I am nervous about starting to relax these laws on affordable housing and what that means for community creation going forward. So, yeah, watch this space.
Absolutely. Let's move on to well, let's move further up north, where it's a lot brighter. Particularly in building skills and narrowing that skills gap. And I'll introduce this one. And this is the plan to train 12,000 construction workers in the West Midlands over the next 3 years, with 75 million invested into it. So this has got to be a positive, right?
Love this story. Love the fact, just as a little side point, that it's made its way into mainstream press as well. So I first noticed this on BBC. We've spoken about it before. Again, our day jobs are in marketing, and the marketing of the sector, the image of the sector, and anything like this that is seen, I am all for it. I think it's a brilliant initiative. Again, I'm just getting my calculator out for my very, very basic sums. But if you were to replicate this across all of the various devolved parts of the country that have the ability to invest in skills and training policy, you're looking at circa 180,000 new workers into sector, which goes a long way. The CITB have always said it was something around 250,000 required over a 5-year period. Well, this would do it. We talk about skills gap, and I guess participation gap is part of it as well. But this isn't just new entrants to the sector. This is skilled new entrants into the sector as well. So it's way more complex than I'm making it. It's not just build it and they will come. There have to be the roles available to them. There have to be the employers willing to take these people on that are going through this training. But it's got to be a good start, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's finding the jobs afterwards. It's all well and good having the skills. That's why in the 90s and 2000s we all went to university, right, to come out with heavy debt and no job. So and I'm not saying this is that. It's far from it. And I'm a huge advocate of any type of apprenticeship, of which I feel this is very much akin to, in terms of the kind of positions that they're focused on. And it's like bricklaying and plastering and painting, but not just that. It's engineering and design. So it's not focused on one part and not ignoring the other. It's very much construction, and it's very much the areas that we need people across the supply chain, which is excellent news.
For certain. I mean, I probably can't break confidences, but I was speaking to a senior figure from one of the major construction businesses a couple of weeks back. And again, glass half full, super positive about what they can see, not just for themselves, but within the sector in pipeline coming forward. But that was starting to panic them with the current kind of employer model that we've got, that we've got the sort of cork in the bottle, so to speak, at the minute. The second that switches on, do we have the workforce that are able to deliver that? And not just the workforce, the skilled workforce able to deliver that. If not, what's that going to mean to delays where labour is available? What does that mean then to the cost of that labour and people being able to, of course, people should be able to demand higher wages. But yeah, there's going to be a real premium placed on those skilled people where they do exist. I know Turner and Townsend and a couple of the other consultants were advising clients, I think probably renting as early as sort of Jan, Feb, get ahead of this for this reason. You don't know what your build costs are going to be if you leave it long enough that you're at the back of the queue. So, for myriad reasons, it's not just, I'm not just excited about lumping new people into sector much as we need them, but as you say, that they're across the sort of spectrum of skills that the volume in which this is happening, I think, is really exciting. And I know there's similar work happening across the country. So I think a really, really positive story and a nice counterbalance to that first one, as you say.
I'll be really, really keen to see how this is positioned and publicised, and how they do fill these 12,000 positions or skills or students, if you like, and you get those 12,000 people into those positions to learn, because it's all well and good having them there. It doesn't mean anyone's going to take you up on it, as we know that our industry, construction industry, does get a bad rep from time to time in terms of trying to get people into it. And I'm not being a Debbie Downer on this, far from it, but it's okay. It's okay having them, but we need to get people to get excited about being part of that. Right across the board.
I think maybe I'm being too positive and you are pulling me back to reality slightly on that one, but I think Yeah, as with all things, it will be a case of taking a bit of a watching brief and seeing how it works out. But again, there's another point there. Obviously, I and my colleagues at SLG, we run our deconstruction survey every year. We've just had the latest numbers back from YouGov that I'll be able to share in a couple of weeks' time. But
Brilliant.
we know we're a little bit behind the eight ball in terms of the sector appealing to people. The last couple of years that we've run that survey, which for the benefit of it, I've spoken about on this podcast before, but for anyone that missed that episode, it's a annual 2,000 person nationally representative survey. So the respondents kind of replicate the country at large. It's always in the region of sort of 2/3 of respondents just flat out, I would never consider a career in the construction sector. So we're already shooting a smaller target than would ideally be the case. So I think yeah, 12,000 may be a struggle potentially, but they seem pretty ambitious. And yeah, if this works as a pilot scheme and can replicate it elsewhere, but also can continue to run year on year and year. If we do lose people out of sector, if those jobs can't be if those individuals can't be absorbed into sector and live vacancies, then it does become a numbers game at a certain point, doesn't it? More trained, skilled people that can elect to pick up a career in the sector. That has to be a win for us, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. And I think we should do more on surveys and marketing in some coming episodes. What do you think?
What a good idea! Yeah, let's maybe talk about that a little bit later. I just thought of
that. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Digress. That was a bit of live admin, we'll call it. Final news story, 3 of 3. And this links really nicely into what we were just talking about in terms of skills within the construction industry and looking to the future. And we were talking about bricklayers and painters and designers and engineers. And a lot of those skills, even the more manual skills, will require some level of competency in tech for various reasons. We won't go into. We could dig massively deep into that. But this final news story is about the widening gap in AI between adopters and non-adopters, and it always amazes me. And I think AI gets quite a bad rep, and goes back to marketing and how it's been positioned. And I always end that part of my sentence with ChatGPT has got a lot to answer for. Yeah, because I think that just exploded at the right time, but in the wrong way. But this is a poll commissioned by Curry and Brown to highlight the widening gap in adopters and non-adopters of AI, with only a quarter of organizations regularly using AI to identify, monitor, or mitigate risk in construction projects. 20% aren't using AI at all, which is amazing. I think you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not using some kind of tech. And you know what? Before I pass on to you, Ryan, because I'm on my soapbox at the moment, I bet they are using AI. They just don't know it.
Unquestionably. It's funny. I think ChatGPT has kind of become the retail offer for AI, hasn't it? But
it's the Currys of the AI world.
Honestly, once you sit down with people, I don't think they fully appreciate just how much they've already had at their disposal without realizing it. Particularly with smartphone handsets and so on. It's fascinating to watch the scales drop from eyes in some respects. But I love this story. I think, and again, there's a bit of a callback to previous episodes, because this comes from the Curry and Brown report that you referenced. It is a much bigger one, the title of which is Building Certainty in an Age of Relentless Change. Now, we touched on a different aspect of that survey last week. But this AI one, you mentioned skills gap. One of the things that I found, once you get into the kind of the underlying numbers, it feels like there's a skills gap within individual organizations from kind of senior level down to junior level. There's a couple of stats I found really, really fascinating. 77% of construction leaders say AI is key to their future delivery, but only 25% use it. So there is a foreshadowing of what's to come, but we're not quite there yet. And I know, one of the cliches with the sector is that we are slightly slower to adopt perhaps than other parts of the economy. But yeah, to recognize its importance and not be there, I thought was interesting. And yeah, 48% of those that haven't adopted yet say that they haven't due to uncertainty. Although
Yeah.
31% of people that already said they've adopted said that it aids. And so I know, again, certainty is a big theme within the wider report. So, yeah, and then there's a haves and have-nots element. And it's funny, you kind of linked it to the previous topic on the new entrants into sector. I often wonder that, and it's an area that I really should explore more often, is all the training that we're giving to people coming into sector. How much of that looks to stuff like this? We know, I think according to ONS data, it was 90, it could be as high as 98% of businesses within the sector class as SMEs. We have, more than our fair share of sole traders and small operators. And a lot of the time, people that are highly skilled that have fallen into business ownership because they're highly skilled. You mentioned before, plasterers and interior fit out specialists and so on, and had no intention of ever being small business owners, but because they happen to be very good at a particular construction skill and there's such demand for that labor, they've now fallen into that kind of model, and the supply chain absorbs them on that basis. And yeah, I wonder, is this something that we should be doing more of, kind of mandatory training on this kind of stuff? And yeah, and not just in terms of this is the way that your role is going to go, but how to run a business and how to sort of adapt this into your the administrative side of what these people do, as well as their sort of on-site roles. It's a biggie.
It's just to give some context to anyone that's listening that doesn't use AI or doesn't think they're using AI or sees ChatGPT as the pinnacle of what it can do. When I did some live podcasting at Digital Construction Week, there was two things that stood out for me that highlighted the fact where AI is so specific and so niche. One of them was monitoring concrete. So you've got little chips inside concrete when it's poured, and that can tell you if it's cured, how long it's going to take to cure, if there's any danger spots, weaknesses, cracks, imperfections, loads of different things going on there. And that was so specific to concrete. And the other one was to do with weather, and it was predicting the weather for construction specifically, rather than just relying on the Met Office. This would plug into your project management and say, well, I'll stick with concrete, you're looking to pour concrete at this time. Probably not the best time because it's going to be pretty cold. In fact, it could be freezing, and that's not a really good time to pour it. So if you delay it by a week and do this other stuff first, it'll be fine.
I can keep within that niche. To your earlier point, Peter, on this isn't tomorrow's world, and ChatGPT and OpenAI isn't kind of the endpoint is, and maybe going back 5, 6, longer actually. Now that I think about it, probably the best part of a decade ago. I remember your point on the weather kind of triggered this for me. But there was a pilot scheme for a street in Amsterdam where every building had green roofs and roof gardens, and so all of that system was AI enabled. The exterior kind of shutters for sunlight, all AI enabled, solar panels and so on. One building would tell the other, right, the sun is just hitting me now, and therefore it's going to hit you shortly. So you're going to want to close your blinds in order to stop solar gain and have a better internal temperature. And so honestly, a fascinating, and like I say, I'm going back several years here. This isn't a new piece of kit. So it's been there for a while, hasn't it? It's just now reaching the point of mass adoption. And I think that's why Curry and Brown are looking at these things. I think that's why it's in the consciousness of the respondents to the survey. And again, I'm not saying all bets are off and rise of the machines, but I think certainly there's several lessons to learn. I won't be so indiscreet as to name them, but there's a business we're working with that is a piece of AI software that effectively turns your phone into a LiDAR. So you scan the room that you're in, and within seconds, you've got a complete living 3D model of the room that you're in. Particularly you think of heritage properties in this country, there's nothing that says, has that wall always been there? What was that made of, etc. But you're making any changes to building going forward, if you think building safety acts and so on, there's potentially some really exciting ramifications for that, rather than just even a BIM model or worse, a 2D sort of line drawing of the building that you're in. This could potentially be every system within your building in real-time monitoring, etc. It's a fascinating thing, and it's something that hopefully brings down that widening gap on AI. I think, and again, it's one of those things similar to the internet, isn't it? It feels terrifying and feels all consuming. And people are talking about the economic side of things similar to the way they were the dot-com bubble. But I think it's here to stay in some guise or another. So, yeah, if you in this sector or elsewhere, you're going to have to get your head around to some extent at some point, aren't you?
Completely agree. So what's your takeaway this week?
Oof, I think I think we've got a big month ahead of us. I think keep your eye on announcements coming out of government. I think it is the big thing for skills, for housing, for AI adoption, etc. I think, yeah, there's probably a reason a lot of smart people are saying budget at the minute, and even a month out, people are talking about that. I'm hoping there's no big announcements there. We spoke about this, didn't we, in Steve Reed's appointment when we were discussing that there's no rabbits out of hats, pardon me. But yeah, I'd say that's my takeaway this week, is that there's a lot of pressure on Rachel Reeves for that announcement. But the smart thing to do would be don't get bored. Don't think it's someone else's job. Keep an eye on the big economic announcements that are going to affect the sector. One thing I will say to that, as another takeaway, is that two takeaways this week. I've been very greedy.
Whoa, hang on.
This government, again, they're just over 12 months in power. They're very, very good at pre-briefing media as to what's coming and limiting those surprise announcements. So we'll keep people as up to speed as we possibly can with the stories that we select. But that would be my takeaway. Whatever part of the sector you're in and whatever your interest is, there's going to be some economic headlines that are going to be hugely important in the next 4 weeks. So stay across it.
Cool. I'm going to segue from that into embrace AI, or not embrace it, just check it out in your particular niche in the industry. Just have a look at some tools and apps that use AI to facilitate or help you do what you do quicker, faster, better, more accurate, whatever it might be. There will be something out there, and just test it. You don't have to adopt it. Just test it and try it. And you know what? The bare minimum, you could get ChatGPT, build a bot that provides you with daily updates about what's going on in government. So you'll be ahead of the game anyway. There you go. And on that bombshell, we'll bid you farewell, I think, this week.
We will. Well, unless you want to double back, because again, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we've our day jobs are in construction marketing, and we've done a lot of construction on the last couple of weeks of this podcast. So I think we might be correcting that slightly in our next episode.
Yeah, I think we can do something in marketing next week. I think that'll be a good thing for our listeners. So I'd like to say stay tuned, but yeah, you're gonna have to wait a week.
Yeah, stay subscribed.